I found the photos on my wedding day, 2 hours before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. My name is Claire. I'm 31, and until that morning, I believed I was about to marry the love of my life in front of 120 guests at a vineyard outside the city. Instead, I spent my wedding morning locked in a bathroom stall in my wedding dress, scrolling through messages that ended everything I thought I understood about the last 3 years of my life. I'd met my fiancé, Ryan, at a mutual friend's birthday party 3 years earlier. A charming marketing director, the kind of man who remembered small details from conversations weeks later. We got engaged after 18 months, and I spent the year and a half after that planning a wedding I believed was building toward the rest of my life. There had been small things. A phone kept face down more often. A work trip that ran 2 days longer than planned. A coworker named Amanda whose name came up with a warmth I told myself was just friendly. Some part of me had noticed, and quietly decided not to look too closely. The morning of the wedding, my maid of honor, Beth, was helping me into my dress when Ryan's phone, left in our shared getting ready suite while he went to find his groomsmen, buzzed with a text notification that lit up the screen. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the message preview, visible without unlocking anything, was enough to stop my hands completely still on the buttons of my dress. I can't believe you're actually going through with this today. Call me before the ceremony. Please. The sender's name was Amanda. I picked up the phone. I still knew the passcode. We'd shared it years earlier, back when neither of us imagined we'd ever need to hide anything from each other. What I found, once I unlocked it, was 3 months of messages that made my stomach drop somewhere. I don't think it's fully recovered from. Photos, hotel confirmations, messages that left absolutely nothing open to interpretation, dated as recently as 4 days before our wedding. I sat down hard on the edge of the bathtub in that getting ready suite, still half laced into a wedding dress I'd spent 11 months choosing. And I read every single message twice, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone into the sink. Beth found me there 12 minutes later, when I hadn't come back out to finish getting ready. I don't remember exactly what I said to her. I remember her face changing as she read the messages over my shoulder. Remember her saying my name 3 or 4 times before I actually looked up at her. Claire, she finally said, kneeling down in front of me, taking both of my hands. What do you want to do? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. Because in exactly 90 minutes, 120 guests were going to be seated at a vineyard 2 miles away, waiting for a wedding that, as far as any of them knew, was still happening exactly as planned. Beth wanted to cancel everything immediately. Call the venue. Call my parents. Simply disappear before a single guest arrived. Some part of me wanted that too. But a different part of me, one I didn't fully understand until I was already moving, wanted something else first. I wanted to see Ryan's face when I showed him what I'd found. I found him in the groomsmen's suite on the other side of the vineyard's main building, laughing about something with his best man, Tyler, still in his shirt sleeves, tie not yet tied, looking exactly like a man with absolutely nothing on his mind, except the wedding starting in under 2 hours. Claire? He said, surprised, glancing at my dress, at my face, clearly registering that something was wrong before I'd said a single word. You're not supposed to see me yet. You know the rule. I held up his phone, the screen still open to the message thread, and I watched every trace of easy confidence drain out of his face in real time. He went completely still for a moment, his eyes moving from the phone to my face and back again, like he was trying to calculate whether there was any version of an explanation that could possibly survive what was already open on the screen in my hand. Tyler, standing a few feet away, went quiet and slowly, awkwardly, excused himself from the room, muttering something about giving us privacy. "Claire, I can explain," Ryan started. "Explain what, exactly?" I said, my voice coming out steadier than I expected, though my whole body was shaking. "Explain the hotel confirmations? Explain the photo from 4 days ago? Explain the part where she asked you to call her before the ceremony?" He didn't say anything for a long moment. That silence told me almost everything I still needed to know, more clearly than any explanation could have. "It's not what it looks like," he finally said. Which is, I've since learned, one of the most useless sentences a person can say when the evidence in question is a series of unambiguous photographs. "Then tell me what it actually looks like, Ryan. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been sleeping with Amanda for at least 3 months, while I spent that same time finalizing seating charts and cake tastings for a wedding you apparently never intended to actually honor." He didn't deny it. "That's the detail I keep coming back to, even now. Not the affair itself, which was devastating enough on its own, but the fact that when directly confronted, with the evidence sitting right there between us, he didn't even attempt a real denial. He just stood there, tie still untied, looking like a man who genuinely believed he could get through the wedding first and figure out the rest of his life afterward." "Tell her the wedding's off," I said. "Tell everyone the wedding's off." The next hour was a mess. I cried. Hard. For the first time since I'd found the messages, sitting in a small side room while Beth and my mother, once she arrived, helped me figure out how to tell 120 guests, most of them already arriving expecting a wedding, that there wasn't going to be one. My father offered to make the announcement himself, so I wouldn't have to stand in front of everyone in my wedding dress and explain what had happened. "And Shustet's, protection." He walked out to the gathering crowd, most of them already seated, some still arriving with gifts in hand, and said simply that the wedding would not be taking place today, that Claire was safe and doing as well as could be expected, and that more details would follow privately once things had settled. The reaction from our guests, once word spread privately over the following days, surprised me. Several of Ryan's own family members reached out directly. His sister, in particular, sent a message I still have saved, admitting she'd had a bad feeling about Amanda's presence at a bachelor party months earlier, but hadn't known how to bring it up without it sounding like baseless suspicion. Amanda sent me one message in the weeks that followed. Not an apology, more of a defensive explanation about how she'd genuinely thought Ryan and I were already on the verge of breaking up, a claim I had no reason to believe, given the hotel confirmations dated well within the period I was still finalizing centerpiece arrangements for our wedding. Then, about 3 weeks later, I found the detail that made everything else click into place. Beth was helping me cancel the last of our vendor accounts when we noticed a confirmation email still sitting in a shared travel folder. I'd forgotten I had access to a second reservation at our honeymoon resort in Cabo, booked under Amanda's name for the exact same week as our honeymoon. Ryan hadn't just been planning to keep seeing her after the wedding. He'd booked her into the same resort, just a few rooms away from ours. I sat with that email open for a long time. It wasn't rage I felt, exactly. It was something closer to relief. The specific relief of finally understanding that none of it had been a moment of weakness he intended to walk back. It had been a plan, with a hotel confirmation number, dated weeks before I ever found his phone. Ryan tried, over the following 2 months, to reach out several times, apologetic texts, then a long email about his genuine confusion during that period. then a request to meet in person that I declined. I didn't respond to most of it. I simply had nothing left to say to a man who'd been willing to marry me while actively planning where his affair would sleep during our honeymoon. Maybell, I lost the deposits on the venue, the caterer, most of the vendors. A real financial hit, though it faded fast next to everything else that year. What I didn't lose was the closeness of the people who actually mattered. Beth stayed with me for 2 full weeks after the wedding that didn't happen, sleeping on my couch some nights when she noticed I was having a hard time being alone. My parents, who'd spent a small fortune on a wedding that never took place, never once made me feel like the money mattered more than I did. It's been a little over a year now. I moved to a new apartment about 4 months after everything happened. Started therapy. Something I probably should have done years earlier for reasons that had nothing to do with Ryan at all. I'm dating again now, slowly, carefully. Beth was the one who reminded me, months later, that the worst morning of my life might also have been the morning I saved myself. I heard, through the same circle of mutual friends who eventually stopped being mutual, that Ryan and Amanda's relationship didn't survive the fallout either. The same patterns repeated themselves in their own relationship less than a year later. I found out about that with far less satisfaction than I expected, and far more tired confirmation of something I'd already understood about him. I don't know if I'd call what happened karma. Nothing dramatic happened to Ryan afterward. No public reckoning, no cinematic downfall. He simply had to live with having been the kind of person willing to marry someone while planning where his affair would stay during the honeymoon. What I got instead was quieter, but worth more, the truth, delivered 2 hours before I would have spent the rest of my life without it. I didn't get the wedding I planned for 11 months. But I got to walk away from a marriage that would have been built on a lie I never would have known to look for. Some mornings, that still feels like the better ending. Afters. After say. Now. Alfay. Now. I was going to end things with her, he finally said. After the wedding. I promise you, Claire, I love you. This doesn't change. He wasn't begging me not to leave. He was begging me to understand why he'd done it. I noticed that difference even in the moment, even through the shock. And it told me something about him that the affair itself somehow hadn't. You were going to end things with her after our wedding, I repeated, letting the words sit in the air between us long enough for their full weight to land on both of us. So your plan was to marry me first, and then quietly stop cheating on me sometime after we were legally bound to each other. Somewhere outside, I could hear the string quartet we'd hired beginning to warm up, the sound drifting faintly through the window. A detail so absurd, so painfully mismatched with what was happening inside that room, that I remember almost laughing, the kind of laugh that has nothing to do with anything being funny. Beth appeared in the doorway behind me at that exact moment, her face pale, holding both of our phones. Claire, she said quietly, your mom's asking if we're on schedule. What do you want me to tell her? I looked at Ryan one more time, at the man I'd planned to spend the rest of my life with, standing there with nothing left to say for himself. And I made the decision that would define the rest of that day, and honestly, the rest of that year.